What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the show after a long holiday weekend, a brief break from the fight game. We're back with another episode. In this one, we're going to go over UFC Fight Night 140 and 141. Just give you guys a quick recap of some highlights, and that's about it. This week, we got a bunch of fights coming up. Actually, two this week from the UFC and one from Bellator, and we're going to give you a quick breakdown of that. And look out for our other episode coming out. We're going to go over the big boxing match coming up with Wilder and Fury, so stick around, guys.
Welcome to the Hook J Podcast.
Who the fuck is that guy? Who the fuck is that?
When it's all said and done, I know one thing that I can do. I can fight. I can give it, and I can take it.
You should have left me over on that other game that I'm from, that more ruthless game where we bounce heads off the canvas and drill them into the floor. You should have left me where I was.
The show starts now.
This just in, Ortiz beats the hell out of Liddell. Who saw that one coming? Did you?
Totally called that slugfest not happening to where I was excited to see it the first two times when the guys were in their prime, but the third time when they're old and one is clearly has motor skill issues, should not be fighting. Oh man, I was not looking forward to that fight, and exactly what I thought was going to happen and I said was going to happen happened.
I 100% saw this coming to the point where I didn't even bother watching the highlights, didn't bother watching anything. I just woke up the next day, checked Twitter, it said first round knockout, and I was like, that figures.
Went back to bed.
Yep, didn't even bother looking at it. I managed to catch it on, I think it was ESPN or whatever the hell it was that showed it real quick. It might have even been on like Facebook at one point or just scrolling through. It happened exactly like I thought it was going to happen. So that was fun. That was interesting. So during our break, we had two fight nights, starting off with UFC Fight Night 140. UFC 41, that was a pretty great actual fight night. You had two really good fights in the main event. The main event being Neil Magny and Ponzinibbio. Did I say that one right?
Yeah, Santiago Ponzinibbio.
Which we all knew Ponzinibbio going into it was an amazing fighter. But he proved that he was still on par being as long as he's been in the UFC. And I did not expect him to do what he did that fight. He came in and absolutely destroyed Neil Magny.
For the entire fight. For 4 rounds, he just lit him up. It was nothing short of spectacular. Something I thought was going to happen because Magny, well, no matter what people say, he's kind of on the downside right now. His talent hasn't really evolved. He's still got talent, don't get me wrong. But he's more becoming a kind of a gatekeeper for people in his age group and his weight class, if I'm going to give you my honest opinion on that.
That was the good main event. I thought Ponzinibbio came in, and the story of the fight, a lot of people were like, oh, he gouged him in the eye, which he didn't really. It was from a jab. He managed just to hit him right on the knuckle with his eye, which, by the way, if you can do that and blind your opponent at the beginning of each round, go for it, right? It's all legal. It's not like John Jones where you blatantly poke people in the eye. This was more right on the dot. Couldn't ask for any better spot.
Yeah, it was just clean placement. I mean, if you want to say it's sketchy. Here's the thing, though. Something I noticed. I don't really bet on the Brazil cards because the Brazilians and the Brazilian judges kind of... There's a lot of hometown cooking. We all know it.
This was in Argentina.
Yeah, in Argentina, there was a lot more fair calls throughout the entire night. So I don't know if that was like a first showing, we can't be completely one-sided thing, or they're just legit like that, which is fine with me. All the better. It makes me not hate whenever the events go to you, and I don't want to pick anybody out of town anymore on the fight card. But Ponzinibbio did a hell of a job staying on Neil Magny and utilizing them kicks. And at one point, I swear, he was just going to kick his leg into the stands, man. Because Magny was putting no pressure on it. He had been eaten up the whole time with them low calf kicks, and it was just brutal to watch. Because at one point, man, I really wanted his corner just to be like, all right, you're not going back out there, dude. You can barely walk.
it seems like there could have been a stoppage earlier in the fight, but I thought the greatest thing Ponzinibbio did in the fight was story of it really was all leg kicks. He managed to hit him with a low calf kick, which we're seeing it more and more, especially in the UFC. A little bit in Muay Thai now. They started to adopt it a little bit more from different combat sports have did it. So Muay Thai picked it up. That right there, that's something. That's a weapon that a lot of people are using more, and it shows. This is the perfect moment to show the effectiveness of it. Hitting somebody high up, like in the calf, up towards the knee, up towards the thigh, it works, but not as effectively as like the low calf.
Another good example was RDA versus Robbie Lawler. Whenever they fought, he tore his leg up too, and kind of took Robbie out of his punching game because he couldn't put any pressure on his leg anymore. There's been plenty of examples. Man, Gagey does it really well too.
Yeah, Gagey can throw that
He
like
can
me
throw
to
that
you.
low kick. Jesus,
he can throw it in a closet and hit somebody.
God, he's deadly and he's powerful with it.
But Ponzinibbio used it perfectly. I think he had great skill, great talent, great awareness. Every time Neil Magny was hurt and he tried to take it down on the ground, Ponzinibbio stood back, had him stand up, like, "Hey, I'm winning on the feet. You're gonna fight on your feet," which is something that we've seen in the past from a few fighters that try to finish the fight even though you're doing better on the ground or standing up. Don't go to the ground, but they went to the ground anyway. Ended up losing or possibly, finishing him down there. But it's not very smart. Whereas Ponzinibbio really shows that he has the ability to, see something, and since he's been fighting for so long, he recognizes it, notices he's doing better during this, and he doesn't lean towards their plan, which is smart.
And shout out to his coaches too for really drilling it in his head, man. Like, hey, this is working against this tall, lanky guy. Let's just keep going. Let's keep doing that. Which the only other two fights before that I actually liked was the Ricardo Lamas and Darren Elkins. Now, a lot of people wouldn't think this was a good fight, but Darren Elkins is hardly ever knocked out, submitted, anything. Because the guy is all heart. And he's game from bell to bell. And Ricardo Lamas in his last few fights has been a little chinny. I mean, he's got a glass chin for a few of them. Got me all skeptical on his talent anymore. And to watch him go out there, take plenty of shots in the beginning from Elkins, but just power through and get the third round TKO, KO, whatever you want to call it, TKO, was really nice because, one, it really showed that Ricardo Lamas is still in the game, even though I kind of wrote him off as getting a little bit dinosaur-y. He is late in the game. And Darren Elkins for having just Darren Elkins' heart. He's always had that heart to stay in it to win it, sun up, sun down, right?
So let me ask you this. The fight prior to that, did you think at all that Johnny Walker, the debuting fighter in the UFC, in the light heavyweight division, would knock out Roundtree in the first round? I don't think anybody did. Did you see a finish coming? No one knew this guy unless you watched the Contender Series. And even then, I think he finished the guy in there too. I'm not quite sure on that.
Yeah, he did.
But
Starched him.
did you really think a guy coming in who was on the Contender Series, no one's ever heard of this guy before, comes in and knocks a light heavyweight fighter that's been around for a little bit out in the first round?
Nope. I did not think it was going to happen. I thought, given Khalil's last two performances, and he looked really good in his last one, man, blasted Gokhan Saki. Just annihilated somebody who everybody thought was going to come in and clean up the division. And he goes out there and gets taken out in the first round, a minute 57. So Johnny Walker has legit power. And one thing,
He's tall and linky too.
he's got he's got such a size advantage, I think, over anybody in the division.
And the interesting thing is he has sort of the same type of build as like a Gustafsson or a John Jones, the tall, linky dude.
He looks a little stockier than both of them.
He has that tall, like he has long arms and a long reach. That's definitely going to help him. I see maybe 2-3 fights, and then he might be in the top 3, top 4 if he keeps winning.
Easily top 5.
Yeah.
If he develops. Because we only got to see a minute of his talent. But he's got a really tight tie clinch.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's one reason Khalil got beat up, because he just took he took from the clinch, he took 2-3 elbows, and it was done and it was over. Which I don't know how Johnny Walker put so much power into those in such a short range. It's partially from throwing the elbow itself and pulling her head into it.
It's
but
the control.
Man, yeah, he just hit him right where you need, right behind the ear, both times. Boom, boom, done. It was over.
That was probably the most impressive KO of the night, right?
Easily.
Moving on, we got 141, which happened last weekend, which happened at like 5 o'clock in the morning. I don't think
over in China, yeah.
I don't think anybody was up to watch this unless you were covering it. Unless you were the guys like, oh, I got to stay up to watch this. I did not stay up to watch this, and I was the guy who's supposed to be covering it. I watched the highlights afterwards because I was like, I'm not staying up this late. So the main event was kind of interesting. I thought it could have gone a little different. It definitely did not.
I thought it was going to go different.
I think everybody thought Curtis Blades was going to come in, take Francis down, and that would be the story of the fight.
We were going to get another Francis Stipe situation.
But Francis came out completely different than his last two fights. When he fought Stipe, he was a little aggressive at the beginning.
All he had to do to be different from his last fight is throw a punch.
When he came out, he was a little aggressive in the beginning. And with Stipe, he came out a little aggressive, ended up getting caught up with the wrestling and the clinch, and then took him down. That was basically the story of the fight.
Yeah, he couldn't do anything.
With Derek Lewis, he was very gun-shy, didn't want to get hit with that right, which you can't blame him. Derek Lewis hits like Louisville Sluggers, like he's throwing boulders at you.
And Derek actually has a ground game, so he didn't want to get put in the same manhandled position again.
Which makes you think, since Francis was going against an accomplished wrestler,
very accomplished wrestler,
he wouldn't want to do this.
Probably the better wrestler in the heavyweight.
Yeah, one of the better, except for DC.
Yeah, and if Kane comes back, maybe.
Yeah. But you would figure he would take that same approach, like, oh, I don't want to get taken down. But I think this time he had the confidence that he could handle it and the confidence that his power would do damage because he did it before. This was Francis's first rematch. So I think he was extra confident this time. I still don't know,
maybe like he's already beaten him once. I don't have to really take it too serious.
Yeah. I don't know how he's going to keep doing this. I don't know if maybe it's people, like, say he does a rematch to everybody except for Stipe, then he'd probably be more confident, All the people he does a rematch to would be more confident, but the new opponents, say he goes against somebody that hasn't quite fought before, he might be a little more timid. Maybe this was his, comeback fight, which it seems like this was kind of a win situation for him. He had to win, otherwise it'd be 3 and a possibility of getting cut, which I don't know why they would do that. He's kind of a power guy. He's the guy everyone wants to watch for the knockouts.
Yeah, I mean, he's also very marketable in your heavyweight division.
Yeah. So I don't know how...
Especially since they don't really want to market Stipe.
Yeah. So that happened. He hit him with right in the temple, which, interesting.
Yeah.
Hit him right on the temple. Curtis went down. He finished him on the ground. It was a TKO. Wasn't a flat-out knockout. It's not like he knocked out Overeem, like when he did the uppercut from hell. Looked like he was pulling, fucking the earth up. But he knocked him, he TKO'd him in the first round. I think it was 45 seconds into it.
Yeah, he got him pretty early, man. It was pretty early. You
can watch the fight in the highlight. That's how it went.
It's long enough to be almost the whole Twitter 25-second limit thing they did.
I do give credit for Blades. As soon as he got hit, he went in for a takedown. That was just kind of him, on autopilot. But it wasn't going to last too much longer when you have a guy who's easily 300 pounds at that time, just raining down blows on you.
Yeah, no shit.
And then the co-main event, which was the return of the Reem. He came back.
He finally came back with a win. A really good win. So everybody been talking up Sergey Pavlovich. He's an undefeated fighter. He's going to come in, and Alistair's gotten chinny, and he's not quite the guy he used to be. Alistair, a lot of people are just kind of writing him off. They're like, all right, well, he's old. He really ain't got much left going. Goes in there, knocks his dude out. First round, defeats the undefeated fighter in the heavyweight division, and he's already saying, hey, a rematch with me and Francis will be a lot different this time around. Exactly, which I'm not 100% sure on that, but stranger things have happened in the fight game.
The UFC's a crazy place, man.
In the fight game in general, man.
So that was basically the recap of the last 2 fights.
Yeah, because other
Fight
than
nights.
that, there's really not much that happened. If you're a fight fan, you enjoyed most of them. There were some good ones. There were some good knockouts and some good submissions over on the Beijing card, but not really a whole bunch happened on that one.
Then we go into this weekend, which is I'm gonna dub the mega fight weekend or the something. It's a lot of fights this weekend. What would you call this weekend?
This is a stacked, packed, and just there's so many fights going on.
So let me go through the list of how many events we have this weekend to cover. This is the big events, not counting the amateur shows because there's a couple of amateur shows around here.
Oh, yeah.
So we have the Ultimate Fighter finale, right?
The Tough 28 finale.
Yeah, we have the Ultimate Fighter finale.
That's on Friday.
We have Fight Night 142, which is the one in Australia or is it New Zealand?
Adelaide, I think it's in Australia.
So it's in wherever.
Yeah, it's over there.
Down to that part of the world. You have Bellator this weekend. You have the big Deonte Wilder Fury fight. Those are just a couple big events. I'm not sure if the PFL have stuff or any other big fight organization. I know the LFA has one, which they still haven't called me back. The first one we're going to talk about is the Ultimate Fighter Season 29 finale. Now, we're not going to talk about the show in general. We're not going to talk about the actual finishes of the show because I don't think they've aired the last show yet for it when we're recording this. So I don't know who's actually going to it according to them, blah, blah, blah. So going forward from there, let's talk about the main event and the co-main event.
Co-main event being Pedro the Punisher Munoz versus Brian Caraway, which should be a really good fight because Pedro, man, last time he went out there, he beat that dude up for the entire fight.
I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I did not know Brian Caraway was still fighting in the UFC. I thought he got cut a little while ago, but this is kind of interesting now.
Well, maybe he didn't get cut, you don't remember, or maybe he did get cut and they brought him back for the tough.
Maybe. I don't quite remember. I thought he did at one point.
They're weird with their contracts.
Yeah. So the co-main event, what do you foresee happening here?
I think Pedro's going to walk him down and assault him, to be honest.
Fair enough.
I think Pedro is just such a machine, man. He walks forward and he throws, and he's gotten so much smarter when he fights, too.
This is interesting because it's kind of like an up-and-comer versus a vet. Caraway's been here for a bit.
And Pedro's no pushover vet either.
Yeah.
If anybody is trying to sleep on Pedro, I would not sleep on Pedro.
It's going to be interesting to see how this goes down in that one. That's definitely one you want to watch for 100%. Now the main event, RDA versus Usman. All right, someone is going to get wrestle fucked for 5 rounds.
Somebody's gonna have their leg hung for a while.
Because if I had to bet on the two, I would put on Usman, because he's been on a good winning streak here lately.
And not to mention, RDA just lost to Colby Asshole Covington.
And B, Usman just likes to grab you and then hug you and take you down, and that's pretty much the whole fight. And it's very hard to get up from underneath him. He's a guy who's going to hold you down the whole fight. The question is, RDA, if he gets taken down, get back up. And is Usman going to be able to get in close to him?
Well, I think RDA can get up against smaller opponents but Colby had a lot of energy, and that was really what was messing RDA up. I don't think RDA has got enough power to push Usman off of him long enough. Maybe the first 2 rounds, but I think during that 3rd and 4th round, if it goes that far, I mean, Usman's too big, he's too heavy.
Usman's a big welterweight.
Yeah,
I think he could possibly be in the middleweight division.
Very easily.
But I think that might be just a little too heavy for him, considering those guys cut down to get there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's
so.
He's
a heavy dude to try to get out from underneath.
Yeah, exactly. I think RDA is going to have such a hard time. The only chance I think RDA has is he's got to rely on his jiu-jitsu if he gets put on his back and really wrap up his arms.
If
That's the only way.
RDA comes in like he did against Robbie Lawler, right, which when he beat Robbie, that was kind of the big thing. You could not, at that point, when that fight happened, I think everybody was like, you can't stop RDA. If he shows up like he did against Robbie Lawler, then that's a different game. but he hasn't quite showed up like that lately. Since he lost the belt, he hasn't showed up.
If the Colby Covington fight put anything into his head, then he's just going to get laid on and, assaulted for however long it takes for him to TKO him.
It's going to be interesting. I'll watch it definitely just for that one. And then the Caraway fight.
The only thing that RDA has got going for him, man, is his hand speed and his power at that weight class. So far, it's been unchecked, at least in, the stand-up game. Everybody else was beaten, or Colby beat him with wrestling, really. Took him down, held him down. Colby couldn't really hold him down very much as it was. He was just trying to stay on top of him and look like he was the more dominant fighter.
Yeah, that's pretty much all you can say.
Well, I'm sorry. Colby may be good at wrestling, but against an opponent of RDA's size, he was barely able to hold him down. He did it. I'm not going to say he was barely able to because he did have the ring control time and he did push him all over the mat, but he wasn't actually able to put him down on the ground, stay on top of him, beat him up. He was just grabbing him. Yeah. From what I remember, there was not a whole lot of physicality from him, and RDA punched him on the nose a bunch of times.
Yeah, Colby has a thing where he just goes in there to win, not necessarily to show off.
Which is fine.
Which I understand completely if that's your career. You want to win, you want to keep making that paycheck.
Doesn't matter how you get the W, as long as you got the W.
That's basically all the big fights to look forward to. You do have the debut of Shevchenko's sister, Antonia. I think that's how you say her name?
Antonia, see.
She's debuting in the UFC. She was on the Ultimate Fighter, I think. But she's debuting. I can't know. Was she on? She was either on the Ultimate Fighter or Dana White's Contender Series. I think it might have been the Contender Series. But she's debuting. It should be interesting. She's 6-0. The lady she's fighting, Jin Yon Kim, is 8-1. That seems like a good matchup between the two, just record-wise. People who've been in the sport for a little bit. So it's going to be interesting to see how that one goes out. She's related to Shevchenko. Shevchenko has the fight coming up.
Yeah, she has the title or the vacant title. They're going for the vacant title.
Yeah,
her and Joanna.
Which that's going to be fun. We'll talk about that when it comes up.
Yeah.
But that's basically all the good things coming out of the Ultimate Fighter finale, besides the actual finale of the fights, like who wins the Ultimate Fighter and the contracts. We'll figure that out after the show airs, and then we'll see who goes to that.
And then the very next day, we have...
Is it the next day?
Yeah.
I thought that was...
It's on the 30th and then on the 1st, son. So they're back to back.
So the next day,
yeah,
they go across the world to, was that Australia?
Adelaide Entertainment Center, which is in Australia. See?
Okay, so they go across the world to Australia, where JDS, Junior Dos Santos, fights the Shuey guy. All right?
Tai Tuivasa. Bam Bam.
The Shuey guy.
Tai Tuivasa. It's
Shuey
going to be
guy.
Ty's first main event.
Yeah. He was co-main event before,
he co-headlined when Mark Hunt was on there.
So, if you don't know, these two guys have been going at it back and forth for quite a while on Twitter. One would post something, the other one was like, oh, I beat you. The other guy's like, no, I beat you. Same thing.
Well, Ty is actually showing a lot of respect to anybody that he fights. And then JDS said some dumb stuff. And he's like, all right, dude.
Yeah.
I was trying to respect you, but now I ain't got to respect your old ass. It's like, oh, okay, here we go.
The way I see it is you have JDS, who is a respectable kickboxer. He has a very good striking ability and a pretty good ground game. He's been in the game for a little bit. Former UFC champ, of course. Versus the second coming of Mark Hunt. He's Mark Hunt 2.0 in my perspective. He's got a little bit of a ground game. We haven't seen much of it because he's able to finish people so quickly. He's got one hell of a right. He's got the ability to take some serious damage. In my opinion, he's Mark Hunt 2.0. You call him Mark Hunt Jr., but in all honesty, have you seen Mark Hunt's son? Looks exactly like him. So we can't really call him Jr., But it's going to be a good fight between the two. You got a guy with more reach than the other. The other one's going to try to get inside, hit you as hard as he possibly can. And more than likely, I want to see the Shuey guy take it. All right? I'm going to refuse to call him Ty or Tuivasa until he's here telling me to call him that fucking name. And I'm, fearing for my life. He's the Shuey guy because it's fun. And I think everybody wants to see him win anyway because we all want to see him drink out of that fucking shoe, right?
I want to see him drink out of the shoe.
That's the main event, right? That's a heavyweight fight for the main event. We go down a weight class to the co-main event. It's light heavyweight. We see a legend of the sport, Shogun Rua versus Tyson Pedro.
Shogun Hua.
How do you see this going down?
Tyson Pedro for the win.
100%.
I think Tyson Pedro not only is going to have the home field advantage, but Mauricio, he should not be in the ring anymore based off his last 2 fights. And Anthony Smith just starched him so bad.
Yeah, it was pretty rough.
I really think age has finally caught up to Shogun, and he needs to take a step back. And I think Tyson Pedro is good enough to stop him, if not better than Tyson, or if not better than Anthony Smith. He's going to be up there. I think it's going to be a knockout.
Do you think Shogun can pull something out of his veteran tricks? Like the tricks of the trade?
I think he could very easily pull out a veteran move, but I think the only way Shogun wins is just
Second round, head kick?
Maybe.
Knee to the face?
Maybe. It's always a possibility.
Flying heel hook.
Now, he could easily, throw a flying knee on a Tyson Pedro shoot, but I highly doubt it.
Who knows? He's been in the UFC for quite some time now. He's had some legendary fights. He had the 2 fights with Dan Henderson. The first one itself was fight of the decade, I think. It's something to be said about his career. It might be going to a close here pretty soon. He seems like he's been in there for a while. He's took a lot of damage. Maybe you should think about it. But Tyson Pedro, he's a young, up-and-coming dude. Maybe Shogun can pull something out. Maybe Tyson can come up like, hey, I get a chance to beat a legend, and go for it, Same thing with Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith did the same thing.
Yeah, he beat 2 of them back to back.
He's on the legend circle right now. And then the fight before you get to the co-main event, it could be considered the co-main event, but that's too many co's.
Coco.
The chocolate main event. Mark Hunt versus Justin Willis, 2 heavyweights. Mark Hunt having the legendary kickboxing MMA career where he's just looking for that right and trying to one-punch you into oblivion. And Justin Willis has got 7-1 record. He was pretty good in his last fight. I remember the name.
I can't figure out what they're doing here, though. Here's my thing. I can't figure out if they're throwing Mark Hunt a can to try to, give him a win before he leaves, because he's leaving soon.
Well, they're trying to build names off him. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Remember that one?
Or they're trying to push Justin Willis forward more with a win over Mark Hunt. So I can't really tell what they're doing here because it could go either way. It's the heavyweight division.
They're trying to push Justin Willis more. If he wins over Mark Hunt, he's got a name that he's won against. Because the last person he fought was Chase Sherman?
Sherman.
Chase Sherman. Which was a fairly decent fight. I think Willis won.
Yeah, he won. He outstruck him.
Did it go to decision? Yeah, it went to decision. Yeah. So, it was all right. It's a pretty good thing. They're trying to build a name off him. I get why the UFC did it. I'm always going to be a Mark Hunt fan. He's got that knockout ability from any place ever. You can't, last couple seconds, can't count him out. Justin Willis, he's a big dude. He's an up-and-comer. I don't know about him yet. Seen him fight a couple times. Not quite decided on him. But that should be fun. That's a good 3 fights to end the night on.
I'm really looking forward to that one. Especially that main event, because I'm kind of up on the Bam Bam train right now.
The Bam Bam train?
Yeah, Tai Tuivasa is really good.
Yeah. I think everybody wants to see him do a shoey.
Yeah, that too.
Everybody's just going
that,
for
and
it.
he's down. He's just down to get out there and just beat the hell out of people.
You know what? Someone should bring a comically oversized shoe and a pony keg. We also have Bellator 210 this weekend, which we've recently found out I will be there. It's going to be interesting. We're going to cover that one live.
That will be...
Or not. Well, you won't see it live. I'll be there.
On that one, we're going to headline with Chidi Njoku and John Salter, which should be a good one. Both of these guys got some impressive fights under their belt.
I'm going to give you credit for saying that name somewhat right. That's the main event. The prelims, there's a couple fights that are actually pretty exciting to watch.
Got the lightweight prelim fight between Daniel Weichel and Goeichi Yamaguchi.
I think that's pretty close, I think.
I think we just put like a default in our descriptions, like sorry for any names messed up.
We apologize for messing up your name because we're really bad at saying names unless you're well known. These two guys are pretty well known in MMA. At least, they've had a good fight record. One's 39-10, the other one's 22-4. So they've both been around for a while. However, that dude looks like he could possibly be like 22, and maybe he grew up in Thailand, and they were like, "You fight next week and the week after."
And the week after that.
And then also on the
one guy you're gonna say
the one guy that I saw on the original. All right, so when Bellator 210 was announced, it was Melvin Manhoef versus someone else, and I was like, I really want to watch this because I've always wanted to see Melvin Manhoef fight, and Joe Schilling was on the prelims, right? Well, Melvin Manhoef dropped out, but Joe Schilling's still on the prelims, and I've always liked him. I always liked his kickboxing record.
So he's going to talk about the only guy he can actually say the name of.
Yes. So Joe Schilling.
His opponent is Will Morris.
Will Morris.
Since Jacob can't say names, and he wanted to say the only name he could say.
That's exactly right. It's going to be interesting. I finally get to see him fight. I'll take a bunch of pictures. That's pretty much all that's happening this weekend besides the Deonte Wilder Tyson Fury fight. Before we get out of here, I got to say it. Before we get out of here, I got to talk about the North American Grappling Association. They're having a World Jiu-Jitsu Grappling Championship right here in the DFW area. It's a 2-day event. It's got 400 gi and no gi divisions. Saturday will be kids 13 and under. Sunday will be adults and teens, 14 to 17 is the teen range. Adults is up from there, of course. All competitors will receive a free t-shirt or backpack, samurai swords, custom medals, and a championship belt. There are 3 registration options. You can register Friday, November 30th, 5 p.m. Eastern for one division. It's $85. Each additional division is $20. Spectators are $12 each. Late registration is December 1st through December 5th, 5 p.m. Eastern. One division is $109. Each additional division will be $20. Spectators will be $15. At event registration will be Friday, December 7th, Saturday, December 8th, and Sunday, December 9th. 1 or 2 divisions, $149. Spectators will be $15 each. For more information, go to www.nagafighter.com.
That about wraps up this episode, guys. We're going to have a very packed weekend of fights, so look forward to anything. We're about to put out another episode of Wilder versus Fury. Look for a special round of that one. And I think that about covers it. Jacob, you got anything? Check us out on Twitter at HookedJP or at HookedJustin. Hopefully you go to HookedJustin if you're into Twitter. Hope everybody's Thanksgiving was good. Have fun. Check out the links below, guys. NAGA, look them up. Got anything?
Waffles. They're way better.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Hook J Podcast. Hope you enjoyed today's show. See you next episode.
Sometimes you've got to do what's right for you and not do what's right for everybody else.